So I'm assuming, like the rest of you, you're sitting around watching tons and tons of last minute 11th hour new Bayonetta 3 information coming out left and right, which, hey, I'm doing the same thing too. But something dawned on me. Everybody and their mama's going to be making a new Bayonetta video who normally makes a Bayonetta video. Now, I've always been on that outskirts of theorizing, primarily because, as far as I'm concerned, can't nobody do it like Raccoon, but also no one's done it as frequently. So it may be a situation of overlap, as in, oh, you think this? Well, he already thought that, but like 40 theories ago. So I try to focus on things that people aren't necessarily concerning themselves with. So yes, I'm making another Rodin video. First off, I think Rodin may not so much be a Lucifer allegory as possibly an Azazel allegory now. Now I'm going to bring up three particular religions and religious related tenets that they have that kind of sound like they might relate to Rodin's origin story, of which we know frighteningly little. It has been mentioned and implied that besides being the strongest person or one of the strongest people in his universe, far surpassing Bayonetta, that even though his fights supposedly are not canon where you receive the Rodin weapons, those forms he takes actually are. So Rodin is both a lumen sage of the highest rank as well as considered a fallen angel. However, Azazel's a unique situation. Yes, I am very, very well aware that in some religious texts, Azazel is the equivalent of a scapegoat, not necessarily a person, but the concept of a scapegoat. In fact, the term scapegoat may have originated with Azazel. Go look it up or find an etymologist, they may help you. But I digress. Let's get into religion number one, which is kind of bubbling in my head. Mandaeism. And just so we're clear, hell no, I don't think I'm saying this shit right. I do not speak any of these languages. So for the ultra religious, the zealots, again, how did you find my channel? But for the more conscious and aware, I apologize for ruining the pronunciation of whatever your religious text is called. I speak English and fragmental French on a good day. I am not doing this on purpose, and I am not intending any form of humor in my inability to pronounce the names properly. I've never heard them before. Alright, so fundamentalism. One of the first things learned about the Mandaeans is that they have a belief of a supreme formless entity, the expression of which in time and space is a creation of spiritual and etheric or ethereal materials, worlds, and beings. Production of these is delegated by it to a creator or creators who originated it. The cosmos is created by the archetypal man who produces it similitude to his own shape. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a translation or interpretation of what I think the first fundamental of Mandaeism means. Essentially, what it sounds like it's saying is that there is a sexless, ethereal-like being who is expressed and lives throughout time and space and is responsible for creating all materials that we can and can't see. That's the first part, at least. Now, as far as the cosmos being created by an archetypal man who produces it in similitude to his own shape, that sounds a lot like the whole concept of God making man in his image situation. So, from what it sounds like, now I'm not saying Azazel is in fact God, but the story surrounding Azazel in Mandaeism could in fact have something to do with, well, why he is the way he is, and by he I mean Rodin. Moving on to the second religion, we're going to get into Islam. In Islam, he shows up in relation to the story of Harut and Marut, a pair of angels mentioned in the Quran. Although not explained by the Quran directly, essentially Azaya and Azazel were sent down to basically become as humans and be like humans and to learn from them. But Azazel, now, when they became human and supposedly were going down there to prove that they could be better than humans under the same conditions, literally it's a human challenge, but you know, biblical style. Azazel was the only one to pass. He repented for his actions and was able to return and regain his angel status. Essentially, that sounds like a fallen angel, but we're going to save all of that till the end, because now we have to get into the Apocrypha. I don't know why I tried to make that sound like it was something epic. It's really, really short. Now, I know we've mentioned the Dead Sea Scrolls before. I like referencing them, but he really only comes up in the Book of Giants. However, what's more interesting is when we start getting into that Dead Sea Scrolls / Book of Enoch shit. So, doing some more reading, here's what I came across. Azazel is a rebellious leader of a group of angels called the Watchers in the time before the flood. But here's something he came down and did. He taught men the art of warfare, making swords, knives, shields, and coats of mail, aka, metal clothing. And taught women the art of deception, ornament the body, dyeing the hair, and painting the face and eyebrows. Essentially, they're implying that Azazel taught thoughterry. Oh man, I am never gonna stop making memes in my head about that. Moving on. One of the big things that caught me, and the reason this theory is even being made, is because on top of that, it was also revealed to the people that witchcraft was real, and he is the person who taught it to humanity and corrupted their manners supposedly. But here's the thing, I don't know what the fuck that could even mean. Corrupted their manners. What he taught people to disrespect elderly people? Be more specific. Also, he may have been a Nephilim creator as a Grigori. Now, I know we've heard that term on and off throughout, just media in general, but one of the earliest definitions of the actual word of Grigori is an organization of fallen angels who specifically married women, which again falls back into a lot of earlier things I said about maybe he was cursed or doomed because he had a forbidden love, much like Rosa and Balder had. So you see, even without fully having gone through a lot of the material that relates to Azazel, until I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, there's a lot of layover and crossover with some of my earlier theories on who Rodin could be in relation to possibly being a Lucifer allegory. Yes, for the umpteenth billionth time, I am aware that Lucifer, Satan, is considered a different entity or existence in the realm of Bayonetta. However, as I mentioned then and I'm going to say now, it could also have been a title. It could be a title. We can have a king, but there doesn't have to just be one king. We can have a Lucifer, we can have a devil, but it can be just more than one devil. That being said, now let's try to piece some of this stuff together. Starting with Mandaeism, not much is known about it. The population, unfortunately, due to being near war-torn areas, went from around 70 to 60,000 to hypothetically 5,000. Also, their religion is shrouded in mystery. There's no particular reason why that is. It may just be from lack of contact with the outside world over these hundreds and hundreds of years, or thousands, that they've been in existence. But more particularly, they have something known as Right Ginza. Right Ginza, how's this a good way to explain this? Is a part of a whole called the Ginza Rabba. No, again, don't know if I'm pronouncing this shit right. And it is the longest and most important scripture of Mandaeism. Here's the thing though, there's a particular species that Azazi, which is supposed to be one of the ways Azazel is pronounced in Mandaeism, is considered the name of an Uthra. Now an Uthra, or Utra, is a divine messenger of the light. Sounds like an angel, right? Essentially, it's a celestial being, or it's an angel. Presumably made of, ethereal energies. So, theory number one. Rodin is based off of Mandaeism. And as he is based off of Mandaeism, well, that would explain his access to potentially the angelic side of everything he has. Also, his ability, without needing to do anything that Bayonetta had to do, go in between the realms, all three, could be due to him, for lack of a better term, existing outside of them perpetually. It's even mentioned / hinted in Bayonetta 3, even though the dimensions are collapsing, hey, my gates of hell space is going to exist even when these places are gone, but not for much longer than that. How strong or insanely attached to the cosmos do you have to be to pull some shit like that off? Man walking around here pretending like he's a regular ass bartender. I still want to know what was in that goopy juice he gave to preserve the corpse, quote unquote, of John in Bayonetta 2 for 24 hours. Come on now. That flask ain't normal. Moving into our second part with Islam, well, this one kind of sort of goes back into that whole scapegoat stuff I was trying to skirt earlier. Now, remember what I said about Apocrypha, or I guess Dead Sea Enoch type literature. Azazel is going around teaching people witchcraft and how to make weapons, basically making them good at war, aka killing each other. Well, here in particular, Azazel repented for his actions and misdeeds, which to my knowledge aren't really all that mentioned. But remember, it was 3 that were sent down, Asa and Azariah. They got their names changed to Harut and Marut. Here's the thing. Those two, in their pettiness, ended up on Earth and stayed there to introduce people to illicit magic. Not witchcraft, but it's simply titled illicit magic. But let's be honest, you know, we can kind of sort of lump them two together, illicit magic, witchcraftery, blah, blah, blah. So, I think that in the case of Islam religion, it may be that Asa and Azariah didn't repent, somehow tricked whatever higher powers are out there into believing them that Azazel was the big old bag of dicks. And so he's been cursed to wander the plains without truly being able to return home, despite his power. But again, this would fall under a god who, for lack of a better term, may not be omnipotent. Because if you know all that's going to happen, why would you leave him there? Or did you leave him there knowing that he would need to help Bayonetta stop the world from being, or not the world really, the entire dimensional frame and multiverse from being reconstructed by some asshole singularity? Again, we don't know enough. Now, good old Dead Sea Scrolls, Apocrypha, Enoch, amalgamation stew. So, this is the one that is basically, you know, the bad boy of the ethereal plane of beings. Reminder, this is the one gave us seduction, gave us swords, gave us bladed weapons, knives, shields, coats of mail, quote unquote, and of course taught thottery to women as implied earlier. On top of that, concluding with witchcraft magic. So, this guy falls in love with humans, wants to try to protect the humans he likes from other humans, but he's quote unquote barred, or maybe he's just not in a physical form yet, so he has to do things the old-fashioned way. He has to give them a bit of Lucifer. Reminder, Lucifer translates in some language to just mean the word knowledge, kind of like gnosis. So, he does it, but it doesn't go right. He doesn't know how to judge the hearts of men. He doesn't know how to judge the hearts of women. He teaches thottery too. Why is it so fun to say thottery? And then he falls in love with a woman, bores a child. And as it has been considered for many, many hundreds and thousands of years, Nephilim are considered to be, you know, bastard beings that should not exist and are an unholy abomination in most places. So this guy is considered one of the chief Grigori in the book of Enoch. Let me try to go find a quote real quick. Okay, here we are. According to the book of Enoch, Azazel was one of the chief Grigori, a group of fallen angels who married women. Many believe that this same story, without any mention of Azazel, is told in the book of Genesis. And it came to pass that the sons of God saw the daughters of men that were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. They were giants in the earth in those days, and also afterward. When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bore children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown. Don't ask me how to modernize what that shit says. These sons of God have often been thought of as fallen angels, and are sometimes equated with the Nephilim. Reminder, Nephilim are mysterious beings or people in the Hebrew Bible who are large and strong. The word Nephilim is loosely translated as giants in some translations of the Hebrew Bible, but left untranslated in others basically means hybrid sons of fallen angels, or is the title for a hybrid son of a fallen angel, which also kind of makes me curious. I don't think we've come across any form of specifically known female angels. Do they just not exist? What's the situation with that? But I am not religious. I am not atheist. Supposedly I'm something called a deist. And let me show you some Googling. Basically, it essentially means that I can believe that there is a God that exists somewhere, but he doesn't necessarily run things, or he doesn't need to give a shit about lowly humans. I just accept the fact that there can be a God. And more than likely, were this God thing to exist, they won't conform to whatever most people or people in general would look upon him and expect him to do. All right, with that being said, enjoy the looping footage in the background. There's not much of Rodin in general. I'll throw in some artwork here and there, of course. Have one of my editors handle that. And I will see you guys when I see you guys. Hey, Raccoon, we doing co-op in Bayonetta 3, right?